My hatred notwithstanding, I had to admit, Dmitri whatever was pretty smart. After they'd carted us off to the airport and on to the Academy's private jet, he'd taken one look at the two of us whispering and ordered us separated. "Don't let them talk to each other," he warned the guardian who escorted me to the back of the plane. 5 minutes together and they'll come up with an escape plan. I shot him a haughty look and stormed off down the aisle. Never mind the fact we had been planning escape. As it was, things didn't look good for our heroes. Or heroines, rather. Once we were in the air, our odds of escape dropped further. Even supposing a miracle occurred and I did manage to take out all 10 guardians, we'd sort of have a problem in getting off the plane. I figured they might have parachutes aboard somewhere, but in the unlikely event I'd be able to operate one, there was still that little issue of survival, seeing as we'd probably land somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. No, we weren't getting off this plane until it landed in backwoods Montana. I'd have to think of something then, something that involved getting past the Academy's magical wards and 10 times as many guardians. Yeah, no problem. Although Lissa sat in the front with the Russian guy, her fear sang back to me, pounding inside my head like a hammer. My concern for her cut into my fury. They couldn't take her back there, not to that place. I wondered if Dmitri might have hesitated if he could feel what I did, and if he knew what I knew. Probably not. He didn't care. As it was, her emotions grew so strong that for a moment I had the disorienting sensation of sitting in her seat. In her skin, even. It happened sometimes, and without much warning, she'd pull me right into her head. Dimitri's tall frame sat beside me, and my hand, her hand, gripped a bottle of water. He leaned forward to pick up something, revealing 6 tiny symbols tattooed on the back of his neck. Molnia marks. They looked like 2 streaks of jagged lightning, crossing in an X symbol. One for each Strigoi he'd killed. Above them was a twisting line, sort of like a snake, that marked him as a guardian. The promise mark. Blinking, I fought against her and shifted back into my own head with a grimace. I hated when that happened. Feeling Lissa's emotions was one thing, but slipping into her was something we both despised. She saw it as an invasion of privacy, so I usually didn't tell her when it happened. Neither of us could control it. It was another effect of the bond, a bond neither of us fully understood. Legends existed about psychic links between guardians and their Moroi, but the stories had never mentioned anything like this. We fumbled through it as best we could. Near the end of the flight, Dmitri walked back to where I sat and traded places with the guardian beside me. I pointedly turned away, staring out the window absent-mindedly. Several moments of silence passed. Finally, he said, "Were you really going to attack all of us?" I didn't answer. "Doing that, protecting her like that, it was very brave." He paused. "Stupid, but still brave. Why did you even try it?" I glanced over at him, brushing my hair out of my face so I could look him levelly in the eye. "Because I'm her guardian." I turned back toward the window. After another quiet moment, he stood up and returned to the front of the jet. When we landed, Lissa and I had no choice but to let the commandos drive us out to the Academy. Our car stopped at the gate, and our driver spoke with the guards who verified we weren't Strigoi about to go off on a killing spree. After a minute, they let us pass on through the wards and up to the Academy itself. It was around sunset, the start of the vampiric day, and the campus lay wrapped in shadows. It probably looked the same, sprawling and gothic. The Moroi were big on tradition. Nothing ever changed with them. This school wasn't as old as the ones back in Europe, but it had been built in the same style. The buildings boasted elaborate, almost church-like architecture, with high peaks and stone carvings. Wrought iron gates enclosed small gardens and doorways here and there. After living on a college campus, I had a new appreciation for just how much this place resembled a university more than a typical high school. We were on the secondary campus, which was divided into lower and upper schools. Each was built around a large open quadrangle, decorated with stone paths and enormous century-old trees. We were going toward the upper school's quad, which had academic buildings on one side, while Dhampir dormitories and the gym sat opposite. Moroi dorms sat on one of the other ends, and opposite them were the administrative buildings that also served the lower school. Younger students lived on the primary campus, farther to the west. Around all the campuses was space, space, and more space. We were in Montana, after all, miles away from any real city. The air felt cool in my lungs and smelled of pine and wet, decaying leaves. Overgrown forests ringed the perimeters of the academy, and during the day, you could see mountains rising up in the distance.